ತದರನ್ನ ತದರನ So Saraswati is one of those ragas that I quite love. But unfortunately in Carnatic, it's not one of those very prominent ragas. But I guess for good reason, arguably Saraswati doesn't have a lot of weighty gamakas. It's more note-based or scale-based. But whatever, I really like the sound of it. Of course, when I say it's not prominent in Carnatic, I don't mean that it's not popular. It's quite popular, and there are a number of compositions in this raga. So one of them is Saraswati Namostute Sharade Vidya Prade. Saraswati Namostute Sharade Vidya Prade. So this is by Shiji and Balasubramaniam. And then of course there is Saint Tyagaraja's Anuragamule ni manasuna sujnana muradu. And then there is Saraswati dayai nidhi nigati tannarul tandarul vai bharati. So this is by Sri Papanasham Sivan. In this video though, I'm going to be talking about Saraswati in the Tamil film music world, and particularly in the music of the 90s Rahman. I have a lot of nostalgia for that period. I am after all a #90s kid. So, I think there was a phase in the 90s when Rahman was, dabbling quite a lot with Saraswati. So in 1995, some of you may remember, Rahman had created the Pongal theme music for Sun TV. It was a Nagaswaram piece, and it was very classical in nature, and it was a pure Saraswati piece, meaning there was no extra notes or anything like that. It was just out and out Saraswati, and it was really beautiful. I'll play a small bit of it.
உலக ரசிகர்களுக்கு எனது பொங்கல் வாழ்த்துக்கள்.
பொங்கலோ பொங்கல்.
So this is now, available on YouTube, and I think there is also a recording of it in SoundCloud. So it's quite widely available on the internet now, and I'll give the link to it in the description. And I have some, fond memories of running to the TV whenever this would play. But if we're talking about film music, the first song I guess that we would associate with the Rahman Saraswati combination would be Malargali Malargali. So I think this released in the subsequent year in 1996. The Pongal theme I think was in 1995. So Malargali, of course, starts with something kind of like Hamid Kalyani, not really, but loosely. And then, of course, there is that famous long interlude played by the one and only late mandolin Srinivasji. It's so beautiful. It goes sa 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 ri ma pa pa ma da ma ba da sa ni da pa ma da pa ma ri sa da sa 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 ri ma pa pa ma da ma ba da sa 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 ri ni da. And then he just takes off on this, adventure in Saraswati. A third song that comes to mind when you think of Saraswati and Rahman is the song Kanavai Like Katra. Again, a very beautiful melody and sung so beautifully by singer Srinivasji. So this was in, I think, 97. It was in the movie Ratchagan. So, I couldn't help observing that, 3 years back to back, 95, 96, 97, Rahman was coming up with something based on Saraswati. So Kanava Like Atra, once again, like Malargale, it's not fully in Saraswati, but the starting kind of reminds you of Saraswati. Kanava Illai Katra Kanava Ni Katra. And then, of course, it deviates and it goes into, it's all kind of notes start coming in. But another portion of this song that sounds kind of like Saraswati is na 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 அதை கண்டு கொண்டேன். So these two portions kind of quite strongly remind you of Saraswati. One thing that I find so beautiful and fascinating about film music is that you have lesser rules to play with, right? The rules are not as rigid as in classical music when it comes to ragas and notes and stuff, right? So the space for exploration is much bigger than in classical music. So, before I heard these songs, it would have never occurred to me that Hamir Kalyani and Saraswati would be ragas or scales, or even portions of these ragas could be juxtaposed so beautifully, right? To the Carnatic mind, they seem quite disparate, right? Or maybe I shouldn't talk for all Carnatic minds, but at least for me, coming from the Carnatic perspective, they seem quite disparate and they seem to be worlds apart. But it's so beautiful how Rahman is juxtaposed, these two scales or even portions of these two scales. So Hamid Kalyani makes an appearance in Kanava Illai Katra as well. So in this part that goes, உன்னை மட்டும் சுமந்து நடந்தால் உயரம் தூரம் தெரியாது. Right, so that's a very typical phrase of Hamid Kalyani, right? So in this song, Hamid Kalyani comes out even more clearly than in Malargale, at least for me. Now, another interesting commonality that I find in a number of film songs that are based on Saraswati is the use of the lower ga or the ga 2, the lower gandharam. So, for instance, in Kanava Illai Katra, there's this part that goes, காதல் தாய்மை இரண்டு மட்டும் பாரம் என்பது அறியாது உன் பளிங்கு முகத்தை பார்த்து கொண்டால் பசியும் வலியும் தெரியாது. So there's that உன் பளிங்கு தசரிக, right? So there's a Gandharam there, which of course it does not belong to Saraswati. There's also this other song by Haris Jayaraj, Marai Marai. I think it's from the film Ullam Ketkume, if I remember right, and it was sung by Unni Krishnan and Harini. A very nice song, and I really enjoy one of the interludes that is set in kind of a flamenco style. So the starting goes, Marai Marai, Pamagari, right? So again, Saraswati with that Gandharam. So it reminds you of Hemavati, right? Hemavati is the full scale. Sarigama padani sa zanida pamagari sa. But Saraswati is Sarima pada sa zanida pamari sa. Right? I think technically Saraswati is considered a janyam of Vachaspati, which has the higher ga. Saraswati doesn't have a ga, Gandharam, right? So it could either be a janyam of Vachaspati or Hemavati. But I find that in film songs, many people have exploited this nice, I guess, connection between Saraswati and Hemavati. Talking of the 90s, there was also this TV serial on Sun TV called Punnagai, I think. And the title song was a very nice one. It was sung by Harini, and I've been trying to locate it, but I haven't had any luck. So that went like Punnagai na 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 ta ra 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 ra. Mapada nida nida pada pada pa ma pa mari 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 sa. So this swaram was actually part of that song. So once again, you see a Saraswati slash Hemavati kind of a thing. Again, you have that ga, right? Speaking of Hemavati, another Rahman song, that is relevant here is Sundari Siriyaretaival Sundari from Kanatil Muthamittal. So I hear it as kind of in the Hemavati scale. I love this song. It's super funky and fun, and it's not classical based at all. But I think the scale is kind of like Hemavati scale. Sundari Siriyaretaival Sundari Pagari sa Rigama Pada Pama Pagari sa. Right? But I've heard that some people interpret it as Kiravani, which brings me to my all-time favorite topic of Griha Bedam. But I'm going to resist and not going to really bore you with the details. But Hemavati and Kiravani are Griha Bedams of each other, and I'll leave it to you to figure out that relationship. In Carnatic, of course, the famous Hemavati or Haimavati Kriti is Sri Kantimatin by Muthuswami Dikshitar. Sri Kantimati. Now, when we're talking about ragas in film music, I guess such a conversation would be incomplete without talking about the great Ilayaraja. So Ilayaraja has a Saraswati song that goes Veenavani Nadarupini. I forget which movie this is from, but I guess it was intended to be a out and out classical piece. I think the orchestration and all of that is also quite traditional. So that was it. Those were some thoughts I wanted to share about Saraswati and its allies, I guess. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you thought.